Which plants do you grow at your house? I hope you're growing plants at your house. Good morning. Hello, everybody, broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States. Somewhere that used Let's mute this. There we go. Somewhere that used to be Los Angeles, California, but no longer is. My name is Brian Engelman. Oh, see, I was trying to switch the page here. Manage on a second device, moderate. Still trying to figure out how to connect to Facebook. Still don't understand it. Zuckerberg's out there lying to us, pretending that he's not going to censor our content. So it's like, all right, let's play the game. You've removed my personal profile. You've removed my groups. You've removed my established media page. No cause given, no explanation, no intermediary, no attempt to allow me an effort or an opportunity, rather, to remedy any alleged issue. Meta has been the second worst company, right up there with Google, YouTube, for an independent media creator such as myself. But I'm here, I'm trying to stream on Facebook. And I think sharing this, it says that I'm sharing the YouTube channel. Now I can't see it. I'm on the dashboard. Well, how about this? Yeah, it's not showing the video that I selected. Anyway, you're going to get the restream feed if you're on Facebook. Wherever you are, hit like, hit subscribe. My name's Brian Engelman, and this is something new that we are doing here on the New American Media because the old American media has failed you. It wasn't super popular. It wasn't chic. It wasn't the cool thing to do 14 years ago when we started the New American Media to say, we are the media now. We cannot believe the lying legacy media. There's no mainstream media. What a crock of shit that was. Oh, I do have a bit of a New Year's resolution. I am actually capable of cleaning up the potty mouth. I think I am. But I just use a lot of crayons in the coloring box. You get the 64, 128 crayons. And yeah, sometimes I raise my voice. Sometimes I go on rants. Sometimes I will use very colorful language. And that's just kind of go into the corners of the Crayola box, the ones that you don't normally use. So I am going to try to cut back on some of that stuff. But look, I'm an expressive human being. I don't leave much left unsaid. And so you're going to get what you get from me. And what you've had was 14 years of starting the New American Media because the old American media failed you. What you've had is someone who consumed more news content than maybe anybody else I've loved journalism. I've loved media. I've loved content creation and really just an examination. Maybe I fell in love with current events, 8th grade, Mr. Flaw's history class. And it was like every day we would have a 5-question quiz in the morning, first thing, 5 questions, something like that, 5 or 10 questions. And it's and he goes, all you got to do is turn on CNN when you're getting ready. Put the news on. They'll tell you about the name of the hurricane. They'll tell you about what's going on here. What's the deal with this story? There's about 5 or 10 stories. And if you know them, then you know what's going on. And that served me well later in sales, is a bartender. I mean, God, you want to be able to talk to anyone about anything? Well, you better know what's going on. And you better have a historical perspective, and you better be able to come at it with wit and humor. And you got to know when to back away from subjects if somebody is incapable of rationally, reasonably, calmly, coolly, in a collected manner discussing guardrails you're not supposed to discuss politics and religion. But I've never been a fan of that per se. I've been I have been a super fan, if you will. I've been a super fan of the people who are able to have conversations, even if we don't agree, even if we're coming from different perspectives. I mean, customers, clients, I like to talk about what's going on in the world. And if they say something that gives away which side they're on, I'll either be like, oh, permission to speak freely, you're one of us. Or, oh, God, they said that. I bet you they're a brainwashed lefty, aren't they? Someone who may, for all intents and purposes, possibly actually mean well. Some of these people do mean well. But man, when you are a victim, I'll consider a lot of these people victims, not just of the bullying. It really has been a bullying campaign. You better repeat these things or else you're going to be a bad person and we're going to cancel you. That's cancel culture. That's woke. That's the stuff that America has rejected. That's what Europe is rejecting right now. It's what Canada is rejecting right now. It's what Bolsonaro's doing. It's what Javier Milei is doing. Look across the globe. We're done. We're done with this. And it's so disgusting because they go to like the basic level of they try to divide and conquer, divide and conquer. Are you a heterosexual or are you one of these other categories? What is the melanin content of your skin? Which flying spaghetti monster in the sky do you worship? And so that's what they do. They, the globalists, the Democrats, the Republicans in name only, who are just part of the globalists, two wings of the same dirty bird. And what you've had is something called MAGA that's trying to prioritize. No. This country needs to take priority. This country has issues. We have challenges. We have opportunities. And we're not going to keep divide. We're not going to stay on the divide and conquer plan of Barack Hussein Obama, of the Obama doctrine. He's had 12 of the last 16 years. And point to an area that's better. Some technology things have moved through in the past 16 years. And, it's a lot like Bill Clinton gets, he was so great for the economy. It's like he happened to be there when the personal computer revolution rolled through planet Earth, rolled across America, creating enormous jobs. Now, you can say he was smart enough not to screw it up too much. And you could say that back then, Republicans and Democrats were able to work together on some things when Newt Gingrich had Congress pushing back on excessive spending, trying to rein in the national debt, trying to figure out a balanced budget, trying to deal with reasonable immigration policies, trying to deal with crime. And they actually had a bit of a give and take going on. But after the Bush era, it's been all Obama all the time. And it has been catastrophic. It's been sad. It's really hurt me as a human being watching this happen. I remember in 2000, and I remember in the years, right? 2008, when Obama was elected. And I'm like, I didn't vote for the guy. I studied his past, and from Frank Marshall Davis to William Ayers to the Little Red Schoolhouse to all the people that are in his camp, the people pulling his puppet strings. I go, I don't think he's a good guy. I don't think he's going to make a great politician. I think he's dangerous for the country. The country disagreed. Hopity hope, changety change. We're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. That's Barack Obama. And I didn't vote for him, but I said, look, I can understand what Barack Obama represents as a half-white, half-black person in America with the constant focus from the educators, the indoctrinators, the Democrat Party to just constantly deliver to you and your children, hey, let me just take your kids for 8 hours a day and we'll fix them right up. We'll fix them right up. It's one thing to study history. It's another to live in the past. It's another to use the past as a weapon to bludgeon your current, maybe not even political opponent, because the only thing that you're doing that makes you an opponent, instead of working together to make America the best place it can be, is you might be someone who could get in the way of them acting like pirates, fleecing all of the natural resources, all of the wealth possible from this great country. Therefore, you're an enemy and you must be destroyed. And this is what the Democrats have done to you. This is what the Democrats have delivered to you through their lying legacy media. And so, no, there's nothing mainstream about these propaganda outlets. When Barack Obama reversed the Smith-Mundt Act, allowing the government to become a straight-up propaganda arm, that's why CNN went off the rails. If you want to believe Mark Zuckerberg, he'll tell you that's why they did what they had to do, because Biden was being a meanie. Did he also bring up all the drop boxes that he paid? How much did he drop into that? Millions, hundreds of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions to make sure there were insecure drop boxes placed across the important swing state areas so that they could fortify. Look up Time magazine bragging about how they fortified the election in 2020. Yeah, but Zuckerberg just, there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure on me. So I just did what I did. Well, then why did Elon do what Elon did? It's not like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have Elon kind of money. Not exactly, but yes, you're in rare air. You paid money to make sure you delivered the Democrats more of this stuff. All they have done is divide and obstruct and steal and cause death. I sincerely doubt that Gaza would be in the situation it is today if money weren't rerouted through Iran back to Hezbollah and into that attack. I just have a hunch that maybe all of that pain and suffering could have been avoided if it weren't for the Democrats. I have a hunch that without Victoria Nuland, Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, I doubt that Ukraine and the United States with Zelensky, I doubt that Ukraine would have been overthrown in 2013-14 with a puppet installed, which I thought was cool at the time. I was like, oh, it's an outsider. Look, it's a comedian. That's so neat. Oh, it wasn't neat. This guy wasn't, like Conor McGregor coming back to Ireland. He's like, oh, I'll take care of it. Da, 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 da. And by the way, I'm streaming this today on the Unhappy Hour because, as I have pulled up here on the screen, I do want to kind of touch and go on what's happening in the world, starting kind of run through the sports landscape and then just kind of run through some interesting stories that we found. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. And however you're watching, type in what network you're watching on. Are you watching on YouTube? Are you watching on X? Are you watching on Meta? Let me know. It'd be very interesting to see. But your comments can show up here. If you type it in, I will have the opportunity to read it and participate in today's program. So if you have thoughts, please share them. But yes, I'm streaming on the sports site because I'm going to get to sports. A little bit of overlap on those networks. But the landscape of the new American media has changed. It was not commonplace. It was not understood just how bad of a situation we find ourselves in. But that's why I started the New American Media 14 years ago. I saw the writing on the wall. I've been in journalism. I'd worked at newspapers. I'd run websites. I've ran opinion columns. I've been a photo editor. I've been an opinion page editor. I've been all sorts of things, a broadcaster, a musician. I've done as many things as I can think of. And it just dawned on me that I wasn't getting accurate information from the news. I've always known that they hate Republicans, but it never got as crazy as it did until recently. So here we find ourselves, and that's why I'm doing this. This is the TNAM Morning Show, the new American media. Here's our little stinger. And as you see, we had that graphic designed where you can see in the midst of chaos, an upside down flag is being raised to symbolize that we are a nation in distress, a conquered nation. Our boat has been commandeered by pirates. And that's what this is. This is how can we steal as much as possible? And what team do you need to be on? And what do you have to do to be a part of this George Soros globalist, New World Order, fill in the blank, rhino, deep state system? And where they screwed up is they're stealing too much too quick. The 40 trillion on our credit card, that doesn't make sense. 30 million people sneaking in the country, that doesn't make sense. You can't do any of these things. And failing to take care of our basic infrastructure, cutting our budgets. You look at Los Angeles, and that's why I'm still using this Los Angeles on fire graphic. I lived there, and I love Los Angeles. Highly Suspect has a song. Now, New York, you know I love you because you made me who I am. The lyric continues, which is not that good of a person. I want to feel something again. Highly Suspect is awesome. Go see them. They're touring right now. No, now Los Angeles, now LA, you know I love you. Did it make me who I am? I don't know. It contributed to it. But I'm always going to have an affinity. I don't even know where to begin. I've managed properties up in the Palisades. Pal One was one of the accounts that I had. Family, friends, coworkers. I finally, I've just been in a shock. I've been in shock watching this stuff, watching LA burn. And so I reached out yesterday and he said, yeah, Palisades is gone. It's just gone. Like, it's gone? Where the deep state screwed up is you're not taking care of the basic infrastructure. You're allowing Maui to get incinerated. Do we remember cities just being completely incinerated before? This feels like a quasi new phenomenon. Does this mean we can finally dig down and run the power lines underground? How is this a good idea? But by the way, how did the fires even start? We got a lot of unanswered questions. We'll get to it. Let me just pause for a second and talk about the contents of the day. That was enough of an intro. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want this to be. Normally, morning shows have a little bit of banter, a little bit of chit chat going on. You know, you got some giggly girl, or you got some baritone voiced guy. You know, it's kind of, hey, how was your weekend? Hey, what's going on? Hey, there's a funny anecdote. So what happened to me today was, but for now, let me get to this. I'm a sports fan. I also have the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. Here, I can show you this. So I do have the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, and I have a new show called Strictly Football. That one's with Mike Barra. And we just talk football, mainly NFL, a little bit of betting tips for entertainment purposes only, and maybe some fantasy football stuff. And so I'm a big sports fan, always have been. Please find the Unhappy Hour and Strictly Football on X. We have 3 sites on X. The New American Media is at American_media_. The Unhappy Hour is at the Unhappy Hour _. And Strictly Football is at TNAM Football, at TNAM Football. TNAM is the New American Media, at TNAM Football. So we cover all these stories. I just wanted to kind of talk to you about what we saw. Of course, the question of the day. Where's my questions of the day? Oh, I didn't type them out, so I guess I won't pull them up as a stinger here or as a crawl caption at the bottom of the screen. But question of the day is, are the Chiefs going to win another Super Bowl? Do you agree or disagree? Question of the day, will the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again this year? I would disagree. I don't think that they are as strong as some of these teams. They're barely getting by. They look very vulnerable. They look very beatable. But the fact of the matter is, they are winning. They are getting it done. And they have a championship pedigree, and it sure seems like they have the help of the referees on their side, almost as if it's kind of fixed. I don't like that. The mere implication of that is detrimental, damaging, destructive, devious, diabolical. Any more synonyms that start with an S? I'm sorry, with a D. So I hope that's not the case. But look, the best teams in each division, each conference, the Chiefs in the AFC, the 1 seed, and the Lions with the number 1 seed in the NFC. That means those are the only 2 teams that get a chance to rest, prepare, get healthy, get their minds right, get really focused on a specific game plan. Instead of, hey, 6 days, you got to battle someone, and then new people are going to get injured, and then it's going to be a whole new thing. There's definitely a benefit. They have the question, rest versus rust. What do you prefer, rest versus rust? I mean, I'll take the rest. But I mean, you definitely see teams come out after getting some rest and they don't look right. Look at the college football championship. All 4 teams that had a bye week lost the next week. Those are college kids as opposed to people who are professionals in the National Football League. But still, it's an age-old debate. I'm willing to entertain any option there, but I suppose Chiefs and Lions have the inside track. So let's talk about it real quick. Texans and the Chargers. Chargers got on the board early, and the Texans just kind of dominated. The game wasn't that close. It was just they kind of kept chugging along, kept putting points on the board. They got the win. C.J. Stroud and the Texans, they've been injured. They have not been at full strength, full capacity. They seem like a team that is improving, and Mixon has good running back prowess back there on top of the passing game with Stroud. Obviously losing Tank Dell hurt, but yeah, Texans might be a piece or 2 away. Remember, they're the team that fleeced the Cleveland Browns. Like, here, take Deshaun Watson. We'll take all of your draft picks. And they've used those draft picks, and, it helps solidify your team. It definitely helps. Definitely helps. Because when you get draft picks, you get them on rookie deals. So they're good players. They're young players. You get to mold them. They're eager to please. They're not overpriced. And if you miss on a couple or a couple get injured, that's fine because you have more picks. It's like getting more pitches to swing at. If you get more opportunities to take a few swings, hey, the more swings you take, the more chances you have. Think of a piñata in this case. So Texans advance. Steelers, Ravens. That was a big line. I think the line on that was 9.5 for the Ravens, and I still thought the Ravens were going to cover it. And they did. They doubled them up. They're twice as good of a team. Steelers are well coached enough to keep making the playoffs, and they're not good enough to really do much once they get there for the most part. I mean, Mike Tomlin on the hot seat, but he's been to the playoffs like every year. What do you do if you're the Steelers? What's the problem on that team? If you were the GM, how do you reload? So Ravens advance. Lamar looking good. Derrick Henry looking good. Defense only gave up 14. That's all right. Moving ahead here, the team that was on path to maybe get the number 1 seed, but didn't. They settled with the number 2 seed, the Buffalo Bills. This game started off Denver Broncos. Hey, they got a quick touchdown. And on the road, I mean, that kind of disturbed their home crowd in Buffalo for sure. But it didn't take long for the Bills to really start balancing that out. And after that initial touchdown, there was nothing else from Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the Denver Broncos as the 7 seed. They end up losing to the Bills 31-7. So now it's going to be the number 2 Bills. See, this is so backward on here. Usually it's the top team at the bottom team. But the number 3 Ravens will be traveling to the number 2 Bills. So in Buffalo, they're going to host the Ravens game next week in the divisional round. I'm rooting for the Bills to come out of the AFC for sure. Next week is going to be Chiefs hosting the Houston Texans. I'm rooting for the Texans in that case. All right, over here in the NFC, like I said, the Lions have the number 1 seed. They barely bested the Vikings and the Eagles for that opportunity. So in the Packers-Eagles game, first play of the game, I mean, it was a hard helmet-to-helmet hit, but I mean, it was a straight up, I'm hitting you straight on. There's really nowhere else for your head to go. I don't have as big a problem with that as opposed to someone flying from the side and spearing you with the top of your helmet. I can't stand those plays. But the Eagles got it done. Eagles are a good team. They just keep finding ways. And the Packers, I mean, they had injuries to both, Jordan Love has been dinged up. I think he got dinged up again in this game. My God, some of the offensive line play, their offensive line was so bad. It wasn't just blowing up plays. It ended up getting another offensive lineman hurt when this guy got beat so bad. He got flung sideways and he rolled up on another guy, injuring him. I think that was an Ohio State lineman. Just terrible offensive line play. But I mean, we could also say that those Eagles defensive tackles are pretty badass. We could give them some credit because, man, they manhandled the Packers. So the Packers have got to invest in offensive line, no doubt about it. Eagles win 22-10. This one sucked. I was rooting for Baker Mayfield to win a Super Bowl. And there was an end around in the fourth quarter to McMillan. Baker takes the blame. I saw McMillan drop a pass that hit him in both hands on the sidelines. He wasn't having his sharpest game. But that turnover ended up maybe, I guess, being part of the difference there. Because deep in their territory, it just kind of changed things and took an opportunity for the Buccaneers to drive away. And on the last play of the game, right at the end, a walk-off doink off of the upright sends the Commanders to the next round over the Buccaneers. Tough to see. Baker Mayfield had himself a great season. He's still improving. I still think he has more room to grow. And I'm still rooting for him, and good luck to him. Rams-Vikings tonight. So we'll see how that goes. And then with the win, the Commanders are now going to be traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. So who do you hope to see in the Super Bowl? Question of the day. Who would you like to see in the Super Bowl? I'm going to look at that bracket, and I'm going to say that I would like to see the Buffalo Bills versus either the Vikings or the Lions. What about you? Who would you like to see in the Super Bowl this year? All right, so that's streaming to Facebook. Is that happening? Did I switch it? No, it's still not doing it. Oh, that is weird. I'm trying to share this screen to Facebook. Here, let's do that. Did that work? I don't know if that's doing it. Okay, let's talk about this. Really, how much am I supposed to care? I try to stream directly to Restream, and Facebook won't let me go to my groups or to my page. So I'm trying to work around where I can do a screen share. So I'm either giving you the Restream screen, or what I wanted to do was send it to the YouTube channel, which it might be. Is it doing that? Okay, so maybe this is sharing from YouTube. Let's talk about the college football championship. Notre Dame got past Penn State. That was a hard-fought game. I was pulling for Penn State. Good for Notre Dame. Ohio State, that was a really close game, 21-14. And Texas was driving, had two good defensive plays, and then Jack Sawyer with the scoop and score, took it 80 yards, 82 yards or something like that. Jack Sawyer grew up in Columbus, always wanted to be a Buckeye. God, I love those stories. It's different from LeBron. LeBron, well, I'm a kid from Akron. Like, bro, you can also rep Cleveland. But they had a rivalry, and they didn't really see it that way. But Jack Sawyer was like Buckeyes. Columbus, Buckeyes. So that's so super cool that he gets to be the hero. But one game left. That'll be another question of the day. Who would you like to win the college football championship? Ohio State is an 8-point favorite. So they're giving 8 points to kind of balance this out. Number 8, OSU. Number 7, Notre Dame. This will be January 20th. It's 7:30. By the way, JD Vance has already asked if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna do this instead. Actually, what was his tweet? What did JD Vance hang on? Where's his tweet? There we go. All right, share to Restream. Let's do that. Hey, side by side. Okay. JD Vance goes, hopefully everyone is cool with me skipping the inauguration so I can go to the national title game. 16 million views. Good job, bro. Well done. It's cool to have a future president, future two-time president, who's a Buckeye fan, who's from Ohio. That's neat. I got to get him on the podcast. I got to get him on. I wonder if I could get him on this week. If anyone has an in with JD Vance, let me know. I would like to book him and talk about the Buckeyes. A little bit about the inauguration and becoming the number 2 in charge. Of the man that the most people ever want to assassinate. Could you imagine being JD? Like, oh, good Lord, I am one moment away. Everybody is one moment away when you're vice president, but when you're behind Trump, man, you're a quarterback that better be ready to play immediately. You better be ready. A lot of bad people out there. But I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of hope that things are going to turn around with some new leadership, and JD Vance will represent that new leadership. Obviously, I'm a Buckeye fan. I'm pulling for Ohio State. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get the job done. I did get a haircut, so I'm not going to wear my hat right now. But yeah, I'm pulling for the Buckeyes. How about you? JD Vance is pulling for the Buckeyes. All right, let's make a pivot off of sports. And let's kind of go through our Instagram feed. We're just going to watch these together. We're going to kind of go through what's what. All right, I think I got this. Where's my volume? Let's go ahead and click this direct, see the post, and play it.
Look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an...
How do I rewind this? Or do I just have to refresh it?
Come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president.
Open hand, not a closed fist. This guy has been calling for, oh, we got to have these meetings for find a way to thwart immigrations and customs enforcement, ICE. We got to find a way to disrupt and block the Trump agenda. And now that you need something, look at you changing your ways so quickly. This guy is such a weasel.
The United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the President of the United States, Joe Biden, with 100% reimbursement, all the resources you could hope for or imagine.
All the resources you could hope for and imagine while it's still burning because you can't get control of it.
Constant communication. I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt in reservoirs.
You don't know what he's talking about with the Delta smelt in reservoirs. Well, then it's time to resign, and it's time to immediately recall this guy.
Reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California, that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
So he's saying everything is full. You heard that. The reservoirs are full. Oh, you can't be spreading misinformation and disinformation. Coming from Captain Misinformation, coming from Captain Disinformation, coming from Captain Lockdown, coming from Captain Do As I Say, Not As I Do. He's out having fancy dinners at the French, what was that, French Laundry? Everybody else is forced to stay home. You're unemployed, schools canceled, careers, lives ruined, destroyed.
Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation, to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to as it relates to the Delta and somehow connecting the Delta smelt to this fire, which is inexcusable because it's inaccurate, also incomprehensible to anyone that understands water policy in the state. I call for
It's incomprehensible to imagine what they've done to block the water flowing freely from Northern California. No, it's not. It's obvious. We're in a drought. We're not in a drought. Things are burning. We always have wildfires. Grab the water and use it. Well, there's a Delta smelt. Then put it in a museum, put it in biology labs. Let's see if we can find a way to work on improve it. You don't need one area to block all the water for Southern California when it burns. When it goes in a drought. And it sets up the perfect conditions for this. Yeah, the reservoir serving the Palisades was not full. That's why I asked for an investigation. No, see that I was talking about the state reservoirs, not this reservoir. The reservoirs. I don't want to hear a delineation of this, that. They're all of them, and you're responsible for all of them. No, see, some are state and some are local municipality. It doesn't matter. It's in the ecosystem. It's in the grid. The computer chip will not work if this connecting point does not connect. Well, no, I'm not responsible for that part of the chip. I'm responsible for the left part of the chip. That was more toward the middle, and that's the reason why. No. You are responsible for delivering us a computer chip that works. And if it doesn't, you need to go. Gavin Newsom, you need to go. Enjoy watching him. Let's move on to the next story. How do we do this? Okay. We going side by side? Yes, we're going side by side. By the way, leave your comments on the side, and I will try to incorporate your conversation into the show coming in through our YouTube channel. By the way, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment or two if you would. YouTube.com/@thenewamericanmedia, Rumble, The New American Media, on X at American_media_ on Truth Social, The New American Media, Telegram and Signal, TNAM and TNAM Chat, Spotify, The Agree to Disagree Show. Unholy Hoax. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Unholy Hoax. Good to see you. Unholy Hoax, we had questions of the day. Number one, who would you like to see in the Super Bowl? Which two teams would you like to see compete in the Super Bowl? Out of Ohio State and Notre Dame, who would you like to see win the national championship? And does everybody deserve to be fired in California? Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, and the rest who have failed everyone. Okay, going through some of these stories. We're going to buzz through them here. If you're not following the New American Media on Instagram, you should, because we share we follow awesome we follow awesome accounts, and we share some really great stuff. A lot of days, if you just scroll through the New American Media Instagram feed, you're going to know what's going on in the world. This is an article from the Babylon Bee. It says that notorious grooming gang votes to not investigate itself. Yeah. Take a look at what's going on with Starmer. Look at what's going on in the UK, in Britain. Take a look, please. It's the hellscape you see in Los Angeles, completely engulfed in flames, is the feeling you get understanding the story of what's happening in Great Britain by the Pakistani gangs of people who are targeting ethnic others. It's a horror show. HORROR, a horror show. It's a hellscape. So yeah, Babylon Bee nails it. Notorious grooming gang votes to not investigate itself. Yeah, shocking. Yeah, I want to dig into this story real quick. What do you think of this?
When we bought
Billionaire Linda Resnick, her family owns 60 to 75% of the water in California. Let's listen to this. I'm not familiar. What do we need to know here?
Fiji water, people weren't worried about traveling over the ocean and, wasting fuel and blah, blah, blah. Later, it became very important, and people used bottled water as the poster child for, the new green movement. Whatever, whether you agree with that or you don't agree with that. But the fact that this water isn't available anywhere else on the planet was a good thing to fall back on, because you can't find water this old that has been safe from the pollutants in the air and the ground like Fiji water.
But you also
When we bought...
So they're saying that her family donates huge amounts of money to Democrats. Now that's not damning in and of itself. But in context, so why did she donate allegedly to stop Gavin Newsom's recall? Gavin Newsom has deserved to be recalled for a while. He's earned it. And apparently this lady, they use over 150 billion gallons of water every year. How do you buy water rights? You know who needs water? The rest of California. There should be no areas where farmers can't farm, where you turn on fire hydrants and you can't have water coming out. And if there are problems with water coming out, because if things get damaged or if something breaks and then it just drains all the water pressure, there need to be designs in place that will block those lines and reroute from other areas so you can pump up the water pressure to help those people. They need to be on a grid. This is engineering, people. This is stuff. I said this last week. I'm just a dude, and I can think of 100 ways. And I've always thought about this for 30 years, watching these stories play out. Engineer, design a better mousetrap, build a better path. Think about the worst things that could happen and find a way to mitigate the potentiality of that happening. And if it does, how do you stop it as quick as possible with the least amount of damage? Actually, I need to see about something. Let me play you this clip. I'll be right back. All right. So yeah, we're going to be learning a lot about the water system in California, and it's time for better answers. You can't own 3/4 of the water, right? It just belongs to everyone. You can't ban someone from catching rainwater. This stuff is insanity. We have got to retire and demolish, completely destroy bad ideas. Republican, Democrat, a bad idea is a bad idea. All right, let me show you this one. I don't know if I can get larger on this screen. It makes no sense why there are no fire breaks in this area. Are they even trying? They know how dangerous this stuff is. Why don't they have a system in place? Why didn't they build a series of sprinklers? Clear out paths, concrete, make them filled with water, little reservoirs. Make like a Venice Canal system of reservoirs, flowing water. They act as fire breaks and as a reservoir. Build it. Look, every time I start talking about this, I come up with 5 ideas, 10 different ideas that would work if there was a will to do it. And yes, all these ideas, sprinkler systems on top of your houses. Why are shingles made of flammable materials? Aren't there? This has been the job of California to regulate, to manage this stuff. And they just haven't. It's like they're not even trying.
When we bought Fiji water, people weren't worried.
Trying to show this post.
When we bought Fiji water, people weren't worried about.
That's not what I clicked on.
In the newsroom here have put together this incredible animation that shows the timeline of how this fire advanced through the communities of Pacific Palisades and Malibu. Here it is, January.
I love Malibu. I love the Palisades. I used to manage properties up here. I started sending the text message and I kind of had to pause and just kind of think, like, what do I want to say? I want to reach out to the place I used to work with. I'm scared. I'm actually scared to hear what she's going to tell me about the properties in the Palisades that I used to walk to identify things we needed to fix at the property as a property manager. It's one of the things I did out in Los Angeles. Really enjoyed it. Once again, every 30 days, you take a walk around, you use your brain and you think, anything we could do? Are there any problems that I see? Oh, I see a problem over there. Maybe we should fix that before it gets 10 times worse. That's what California has been ignoring for 100 years. It's unconscionable. It's unacceptable. It's unbelievable. Look at these red areas of fire and how this spread. This hurts. This hurts to watch. I know if you have no connection to California, it's easy to just like, screw them, they deserve it. These people are so backward. They get what they get. Man, I don't think a lot of these big blue cities, I don't think they really vote the way that they're tallied. There might eventually be a ballot that gets counted. I don't think that's really the will of the people. I think if you pass the SAVE Act, good luck finding a single blue city. If you don't get to manipulate the voter rolls and play your little stunts and games to collect just enough. So no, I'm not convinced that the people who live in Los Angeles deserve what they get. But this better be a wake-up call to everybody that allowing Democrats to have a strategic vision for your future, my God, it's like Russian roulette. Look at this spreading of the wildfire.
January 7th at 6:17, it was at 2,900 acres. And then on January 8th, that explosion to 15,000 acres. And then the next day, 17,000 acres as it progressed into the mountains. And then on the 9th, 19,000 acres. And you can see how far it had gotten into Malibu. And then we come to yesterday at 20,000 acres. And you can see 20 and then to 21,000 acres. But you see how far across it spread, and all the way up to the 11th, which is today at 22,660 acres. This is just information from 7:30 a.m. today.
Yeah. My friend just said, yeah, Palisades, they're gone.
When we bought Fiji water, people weren't worried about.
Okay, Instagram.
In the news.
Look at this. Don't need music. Look at Los Angeles. It's hell. This is what hell looks like. The view from the Griffith Observatory, looking out and everything is on fire. That's hell. I had major concerns living in Los Angeles about, oh my God, if something bad happens, how do I get out and where do I go? Just look at that. Been to the Griffith Observatory so many times. Great place. Oh, just breaks my heart to watch. Here's a good story. UK Undersecretary of Defense Ivor Kaplan has been arrested on pea charges following a sting operation by citizen pea hunters. Isn't that crazy? You're not allowed to say the word because it'll flag your stuff, because you're not allowed to go after the people that abuse kids. Once again, kid abusers. Yeah. The penalty is not strong enough everywhere. Everywhere. Needs to adopt that. And UK needs to cast off Keir Starmer and put somebody in there that cares about their people. This is always great to watch. So here's Jasmine Crockett. Oh, she's one of the worst. She is awful. Oof, she's awful. And Scott Jennings having a conversation on CNN.
Anyway, we're sitting in D.C. right now. I just want to point out, if we're about to start talking about population, if that is the measure of who should have a state, I do want to point out that D.C. has more people and does not have statehood than some of our actual states. So let me be clear. That is not the measure of whether or not you get statehood. But what is very frustrating for people such as Stacey, and she is a wonderful representative, but she is limited in what she can do when you literally say you don't have a voice. And I appreciate what you did on the House floor.
Well, I always have a voice.
Well, yes,
I may not have a vote.
Yes,
she may not have a vote, but I always have a vote.
Anyway.
Thank God. Yeah, DC is not supposed to be a state. So go ahead and get it as upset as you want about that. But yeah, thank God DC does not get a vote.
But the thing is, for
here you go. Let's hear about Gavin Newsom and how complicit he is with where we find ourselves today.
Sanctuary cities and states, they complain about the cost, but they continue to add services. I want to show you California. As of yesterday, California has added a health care benefit for migrants.
So California is saying, hey, we're going to cut, cuts $100 million from fire prevention this year. Let's go ahead and dig in and make sure we have the exact number. I'm guessing it's more than that. And by the way, let's not look at just this year. Let's look at over the past 6 years, from when, I believe it was 2019, when Trump was dressing him down and saying, you got to sweep the floor. They said, look at the floor, all these broken and burnable trees and undergrowth brush. It's extinct fish, the smelt. They said, sir, it's a smelt. I said, he who smelt it, dealt it. Gavin, get your act together. So this is what California is spending its money on.
They are now going to extend free health care to migrants between the ages of 26 and 49. That's going to cover 700,000 additional people and cost the state $2.6 billion each year. Now, that's added onto that's added onto California's deficit, which is already $68 billion.
$68 billion deficit with all of the wealth and resources. This is a good site, secret.Los Angeles. Some good places to volunteer. Resources. That is hell. Anyway, that was shared as a good site.
We have watched.
Here you go. Here's trying to make sense of what's going on with California and the leadership. This is real UAC Hibbs. I don't know who this is, but the message comes highly recommended. Boldness in the pulpit. Okay, maybe this is a pastor. Here we go.
Absolute exposure of the most incompetent. Wait, reserve your applause to the end. Nobody can hide from this. Nobody can hide from it. There's no excuses. This is the most wealthiest state in the 50. We pay the most in taxes. We pay the most in gas. We pay the most in electricity. You name it. If it's in California, we pay the most for it. Why? Why? Because of our government. Why? Because of things that Sacramento does because they can. Our flag of this state is an absolute abject lie. The flag says California Republic. It is not. A republic is where the people decide and the people have their way. What has happened to California? And you prove me wrong. I challenge you today, if you don't like what I'm about to say. California has been under unmitigated Democrat 100% power control. Democrat. Supermajority. What does that mean, supermajority? It means nobody can oppose their decision making. And now you've got it. You've got a situation where a catastrophe came and the billions of dollars that you and I gave was diverted to other woke, stupid Democrat projects. That's not hyperbole. It is a fact. You don't like it, change your party. If you don't like it, change different. But I'm telling you right now, I'm upset and I'm angry, and it's the right kind of anger. I'm telling you this right now. When you open up a fire hydrant and nothing comes out, and then Joe Biden says, it's because we need electricity. It was turned off for the fire hydrant to turn on. In some cases, that might be true. If the fire hydrants are on top of a mountain, you need a motor to drive the water up. That's extremely rare, and it wasn't the case in these fires. Bad management, horrific politicians who took your money and took trips like Karen Bass, the mayor of LA. She decided to go to Africa the week of the fires to be on a little trip that you paid for. She was really put out when she was told to come home. It didn't look bad. I mean, it didn't look good, that it looked very bad. You've got Gavin Newsom flying down here and then at a command center laughing it up with some people, and it's caught on tape, while he spends 9 point so many millions of probably your dollars to buy himself a new house. It's time to replace the leadership in California. You don't need any more. You don't need any more examples. These fires could have been stopped.
The priorities are all out of whack.
We have watched.
So that was a good one, and that sums it up well. Let's listen to what...
But my initial understanding is the reservoirs that the Palisades were drawing on, these 3 million gallon reservoirs, were full at the initiation of these fires.
You sure about that? We do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening with that local reservoir.
Whoopsie daisy!
But my initial
I mean, this is the level of messaging, the consistency of messaging. By the way, How do things get so bad so quick? How do people turn on the community they were elected to represent and assist? How does it happen? Well, Matt Gaetz, let him tell you. Matt Gaetz and Charlie Kirk.
These lobbyists, what are they doing on a daily basis, like a day in the life of a lobbyist?
So, I mean, who is the Delta Smelt lobbyist? Can we get an answer on that? I would love to know. You're going to dump all of that available water into the Pacific Ocean instead of using it for farmers, using it for reservoirs, using it when it's heavy rains, heavy melt years. You save it for when you need it. Where is the willpower to design a better California? Anyway, when the lobbyists come up and just say, hey, here's your agenda, don't worry about the rest of the stuff. And they said that about Trudeau. Trudeau didn't make any important decision. He wasn't in charge of anything. Trust me, we're in charge. He just reads the script. Well, the script is written by lobbyists.
What the lobbyists do, like a lobbyist would wake up and then go to a breakfast where they would hand members of Congress, $1,000, $2,000, up to $5,000, and they for their campaign. And right as they're delivering the money, they make a specific ask. Congressman, we really need you to sign on to this amendment. We really need this bill filed. And they go around and do it. And it was just, for me, like when I first got there before I swore off the money, it was hilarious because it'd be like, we are Lockheed Martin and we'd like you to support this weapon system. And then like the next group would be like, we're the Cannabis Association of America. And I just brought together the weirdest of people. So that's what they'll do in the morning, and then they work the halls throughout the day with staff members who hope to one day become lobbyists, saying, we were there for the breakfast fundraiser.
It's just an oily orgy, guys. It's just an oily orgy. If we could unplug our system and plug it back in, what would be a new design? What would be a better design than what we have now?
And your member really said they'd sign on to this letter for us or institute this amendment, and then they would extract those demands. The other thing that lobbying firms have figured out is you don't even need to use the campaign finance system if you hire people's otherwise unemployable family members.
If you hire people's otherwise unemployable family members. Think Hunter Biden.
The number of spouses,
children of members.
Children of members of Congress who become lobbyists is astonishing. Like Senator Richard Burr, a former senator from North Carolina, his wife and son both became lobbyists. And he was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. So
these lobbyists.
So maybe that's why. Maybe the people who are in charge of California, that's the deep state. You get there and it's just handled for you. This is just the way that things are done. This is the way things are going to happen. Oh, is it? Yeah, here's some actual footage of how the government is handling the wildfires in LA. Here you go. Bucket. They're passing it, spilling it, passing it, spilling it, running it. By the time it gets there, poof, there's just a tiny little bit. Now, I don't know what this is from. I think it might be from like Little Rascals or something. It feels like a Little Rascals clip, but that is what it seems like. Instead of sending you professional services, here's a bunch of kids. And this sploosh does nothing. All right, Gentry Gevers. I don't know how do you say it. Gentry Gevers. I see this account from time to time. It says the Democrats have been caught fundraising for the California fires, but it's going to Act Blue. How is this not fraud? They always say to not politicize tragedies, then they do stuff like this. All right, well, let's look into that. Act Blue. I mean, take a look at what James O'Keefe has reported on Act Blue. In the ways that they have fake sock puppet donors. There are caps on what individuals can spend and what different groups are corporate. There's caps on spending for politicians. So they'll say Joe Smith over here, he gives us $67,000 every 9 weeks. And you're like, what? Joe Smith You don't have that kind of money. So let's look into that with Act Blue and fundraising for Democrats. Cat Turd, always good for something to consider, says if you Democrats weren't so hell-bent on stealing the election and installing Chowder Brain, you'd only have Trump for 8 more days. But instead, you'll have him until January 20th, 2029. Congratulations on your epic failure. By the way, when he says that there, you need to go to cisa.gov/rumor control, because they'll tell you the 2020 is the only free and fair election in the history of elections. I say that under duress. All right, here's another take. Where's the volume? Try it again.
This is so unprecedented. It's just amazing.
In this one, we're getting back to Trump in the trial and the lawfare attempts from Barack Obama and the deep state to kneecap him, to take him out as the main political opponent so that they could get another 4 years of mismanagement.
He would say that.
It's shockingly unconstitutional, Trace. It's great to be with you, and I'm here to announce on your show a measure that I'm working with Congress that should be Congress's bread and butter. And I'm calling for the subpoenas to be issued to Judge Merchant's daughter's company, who made $15+ million from the illicit information pouring out of her father's courtroom. Yep. I want to know the bank records, because money doesn't lie. Yep. I want to know how deep it is and how much of it went to the family and how much of it is going to the family after this false conviction. And then we need to investigate the FEC actual violations that this judge and his family conducted, because he should never have been overseeing this trial to begin with, because of the illicit campaign money that was flowing through there, and the unconstitutional due process violations are only the beginning. So America is calling for accountability of our judicial system, and Congress is the only lever that has it, and I'm hoping for 1 or 2 brave members of Congress that I'm talking to issue those subpoenas ASAP.
I mean,
so keep your eyes peeled. The hunters are going to become the hunted. And I cannot be more excited.
The big defense contractors didn't want me because I don't think we should spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build stuff that doesn't work while we haven't taken care of war fighters, 8,600 of them, that were unfairly driven out because of an unconstitutional vaccine mandate.
How about that? And there were people who were driven out of the firefighting department because they wouldn't take what was mandated to them. That's a personal medical choice, and we're allowed to make our personal medical choices.
Big tech didn't want to see me there because I actually believe I'm a bit of a bull moose Republican. I think there are times where market power can be used against the American people, and there is nothing virtuous about embracing this neo-libertarian theory that you ought to let big business crush people and make the terms of service on some tech platform more important than the values that undergird the Constitution of the United States of America.
Thank you. If you're going to operate in the United States, you need to operate under our Bill of Rights. You need to protect our civil liberties, including the right to free speech. You don't get your section 302. What is it? What was it? 230. God, I messed up the, I said 302, but it's 230. This is where online platforms don't really fit into traditional communication categories. And so you have platform and a publisher. A platform is just like, hey, we're the telephone company. We deliver service. You can't hold me criminally liable for a conversation where 2 people decide to commit a crime. You can't blame us. And honestly, in a way, that's what Ross Ulbricht was about. Ross was like, I run a website. I don't know. People are making deals and they're selling things and buying things. That's not me. I'm running a platform. Whereas a publisher is like, hey, this is your magazine. This is your newspaper. This is your television content. This is your web content. You're responsible for what you produce. So Section 230 says, no, we're a platform. Okay. Then why are you acting like a publisher? Once you start editing what people may and may not say, now you have published content. You've edited and published, censored, crafted. You're not a platform. So Section 230, Matt Gaetz is summing it up pretty well here, I think. I can't really rewind it. Where's the playing mechanism on this? I swear every site is goofy. But if tech platforms are going to censor people because they have political opinions that they don't want to be out there, then you lose all of your rights as a platform. And now you can be sued for violating our civil liberties. Because if you're going to operate your company in the United States of America, we're allowed the right to free speech. Oh, well, they're a private platform. No, they're not. They've been infiltrated by the deep state, and they're the ones that pick out and push different topics. They're the ones that censor different topics. They give certain things the heat button and ramp it up so it's in everybody's feed. Facebook has been sued. Facebook has been criticized to the gills for when they were experimenting with how they could deliver rage bait to certain groups of people and what it would do, what it would cause. And you look at America burning in 2020 and you're like, I wonder how that could have happened. I wonder how you fed the algorithmic loop so that every time you turned it on, it was something dividing people by race and showing some sort of atrocity to try to get people out to burn the country down so that we could get rid of Orange Man Bad as president because the Democrat deep state was colluding with big tech. So then it was fascism. Fascism is the blending of private and corporate interests. When Twitter was banning President Trump and banning anyone that had a thought that was against what Obama and Biden and Harris and the deep state wanted, they were censored. You can't claim, like Mark Zuckerberg, I think I have a clip on there. I'm going to start tearing through these a little quick so I can get through them all. But how believable is it? How believable is it? I don't believe Zuckerberg at all. I will reach out to them and see if I can, if I can. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to express my concern and I'm going to see if I can get a contract with them to bring this show through their platform, because I've been so heavily shadow banned before. Let's see if they'll put their money where their mouth is, because we are aggrieved parties. The way that they have censored and destroyed the ability for the new American media to have a presence, to have a voice. They've deranked and shadow banned our content like crazy. Forget monetization options. Literally deleted our company page, no cause. So yeah, Matt Gaetz talking about how are these tech giants gonna try to have their cake and eat it too, while trashing the Constitution of the United States. The right to free speech is the paramount reason, the paramount minimum requirement in order to do business in the United States. We've got to turn this around.
And there were big pharma lobbyists who were real concerned that we were going to take an aggressive approach at some of the things they've been doing to keep America unhealthy and sick.
Yeah. The dyes and the chemicals, the toxins that are found in the food, and hiding and cooking their data with their other products that you can't even talk about. It's one thing to have some sort of shield or liability from potential legal consequences if you're telling the truth. If you're lying to us, I think all bets are off. I think all bets are off. If you were cooking the books and providing incorrect data to hide the ramifications, the health consequences of the things that you were saying, oh, it's dangerous misinformation for people to disagree with us because we have to sell this product to everyone on earth multiple times. You got a problem. So I am hopeful that Bobby Kennedy getting involved with the health and safety of America, I'm cautiously optimistic. Fingers crossed. Maybe I don't get everything I want, but man, can we get some things? Because we are off track. We are off-roading. We are ready to go off of a cliff on almost every front you could imagine. Our civil liberties, our health, our safety, our basic infrastructure, our debt, our inflation, all of it.
So encouraged that we finally have somebody to lead HHS that wants a healthcare policy to make America healthier. What a novel concept. All we've been talking about is who's going to pay for how sick we become. And then keeping you sick creates an economic pipeline and an economic incentive system for interest groups to continue to get paid. So maybe
that's just demonic.
Maybe their stock prices won't go up as much, but your life expectancy will go up, the life expectancy of your family members. And I think that is the role of government. We don't live in a place with no rules. There is order, there is national interest, and we are going to pursue that interest without apology.
I'm excited for that. And we'll see where Gates ends up. By the way, here's a picture. This is brutal. Don't sit out local elections. They matter. This is a picture. What's this say? I mean, this is just show Galloway Street. I thought it had a tag that told me exactly what's Altadena. But here's the neighborhood beforehand, and here's the neighborhood after. It's just all destroyed. Like, you can't even fathom this. Just deleted and scorched earth. God, that is brutal. DEI water chief hire Janice Quinones oversaw the emptying of the Santa Ynez Reservoir, and she makes $750,000 a year. Well, let's hear what she says in her words.
For the DWP to put an equity lens on everything.
Yes. Yeah.
An equity lens on water and power?
And that's the number one thing that attracted me to this role. Coming from the communities that I come, seeing.
The number one thing that attracted her to this role is not to do a good job with water and power. Her number one job is equity. That's the number one thing that brought her to this job, not doing the job. Is this a Saturday Night Live skit?
What I've seen through my career in utilities and through the military. I've been in the Coast Guard 19 and a half years now, so I got 6 more months to qualify for my 20 years, which was my original goal.
Wow, congratulations, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. It's important to me that everything we do, it's with an equity lens and social justice and making sure that.
Social justice is another buzzword. When someone regurgitates this phrase, all of your alarm bells should be going off. These are things that theoretically sound great, and they are not great.
We right the wrongs that we've done in the past from an infrastructure perspective, and that we involve the community in that process. And this utility is serious about it, is authentic about it, and so I'm just super
not competency.
Excited to be part of that movement.
Been really.
Competency is the only thing that needs to be prioritized here.
But when I was out there in the
by the way, be careful, everybody. TNAM preparedness.
Malibu area, I saw a gentleman that looked like a firefighter, and I asked him if he was okay because he was sitting down. I didn't realize we had him in handcuffs. We were turning him over to LAPD because he was dressed like a fireman, and he was not. He just got caught burglarizing a home. But when I was
So you got the worst of the worst out there. Be prepared, be alert, be careful. Just because somebody claims to be an authority does not mean that they are. It's like the Wild West out there now. I'll just mute the sound. Here it is. This is huge. Great thanks to the great state of Canada, for assisting in the California firefight. They go down there, they dig, they scoop, and they spread. That is neat. Look at that maneuver. You drop down. This is like Jack Sawyer grabbing a touchdown in the college football playoffs. Look at that. Hey, more of this competency, please. There's no equity, diversity, inclusion. DEI prioritizes everything but competency. The only thing that should matter is competency. Right there, I believe I'm looking at a super competent pilot. And I think it's great. What's going on in this post?
Hey, everybody, it's Mike.
There we go. So let's listen to what Schellenberger has to say.
Schellenberger for Public. The lack of water available to firefighters in Los Angeles was unavoidable, say experts in the media. Hydrants ran dry because the fires were just too big and the water system too old. Even if the large Santa Ynez Reservoir had been filled with water, it likely would not have made a difference, they say. But there are reasons to believe that it would have made a significant difference. The Santa Ynez Reservoir is just a few thousand feet away from where the massive Pacific Palisades fire started, and it's the second largest of LA's 10 major active reservoirs. Now, it is too early to say precisely how much of a difference it would have made. And there's no debate that LA's water system is antiquated. It was never created to battle so many different fires at once. The use of so many hydrants and the destruction of so many service lines to private residences resulted in a major loss of water and thus of water pressure. But the Santa Ynez Reservoir was uphill from the Pacific Palisades fire, and the firefighters doing battle with it would likely have had first access to its 117 million gallons of water before other firefighters below them, and that would likely have kept water pressure high. While the media is downplaying the significance of losing the Santa Ynez Reservoir, a senior water utility executive has come forward to tell public that 117 million gallons is a huge amount of treated water storage to have available for firefighting. Massive, maybe one of the biggest treated water storage reservoirs on the whole West Coast. The person I spoke directly with has worked as a senior professional in a California water utility for 2 decades. And, crucially, the person told me that the LADWP should never have drained the Santa Ynez Reservoir of water in the first place. Instead, it should have kept it full for emergency use and only drained it to repair a torn cover after the fire risk was far lower and after LADWP had a contractor under contract and ready to perform the necessary repairs. If you're not already a subscriber to...
So make that make sense, everybody.
Stop calling the fires in California unprecedented. What happened in Maui, that was unprecedented. What happened in North Carolina, that was unprecedented. What's happened in California was predicted. And in fact, Newsom ran his campaign in 2017 off the backs of the Tubbs fire, which at the time was the most destructive fire in California, where fire hydrants also didn't work. And my friends in those neighborhoods were utilizing the waters from their pools in order to...
Yeah, that's what Adam Carolla was just saying. My God, everybody, anyone with the pool, you need to have a pump and you need to have a plan. A pump and a plan. That is a reservoir of, I don't know how many thousands of gallons. Get yourself a pump and a way to put a sprinkler system at your property so you can just do something.
To exterminate flames. Fire hydrants not working, nothing new. Wildfires in California, nothing new. I was evacuated from my first wildfire 30 years ago when I was 10. I decided to leave California because I could not stand the policies and the red tape that they had, and I decided to trade hurricanes, which I get ample notice, versus wildfires, which I get no notice. And watching the writing on the wall over the years, I could see that nothing was changing, and it was only a matter of time before that state became a goddamn inferno. My dad was a heavy equipment operator in charge of maintaining the roads in my town. And 30 years ago, he was facing issues for mowing the roads during high fire season because of frog habitats that didn't even end up existing there. What is happening?
Frog habitats that didn't exist. The Delta Smelt plan that didn't save a Delta Smelt. And who cares about a Delta Smelt? Care about the people. And if you want to build some extra habitats and you want to work with the universities, maybe you get the Delta Smelt into some other areas and try some different things, fine. But you don't destroy the ecosystem. You don't destroy the infrastructure for the ecosystem. You work with them. It's obvious you have to pull the dead stuff off of the floor. It's obvious. But California does the unobvious far too often.
In California has been happening for years. And by utilizing the term unprecedented takes away the accountability from the people who have put the state where it's at. Stop using that term. Call it what it is. Call out the leaders. Because there are thousands thousands of Californians who do not deserve to be now homeless because of the fact that their leadership, elected whether they chose to or not, failed them. And as a Californian, you have a right to be pissed at Newsom if you voted for him because he lied to you. And as anybody else who didn't vote for Gavin Newsom, you have a right to be pissed because he is costing us now tax dollars. And for a state that talks about equity and giving everybody a level playing field, California has far more resources available to them than North Carolina does.
Yeah.
Yet the Biden administration stepped up immediately to use all of our tax dollars to bail their asses out. Stop calling it unprecedented. It was predicted and it happened because of poor planning and there is no other way about it. And for the assholes on community notes, this is opinion, my lived experience, and you can go fuck yourself. Stop calling the fires.
Who is this? I need to follow this person. I don't know who that is. Red Daywalker? No, that's not it. I don't know who that is.
Stop.
Actually, I'm going to say that. There. Who is this person? How do we follow them? All right. Well said. Next.
Today is January 10th, 2025. I'm going to start this video out by saying that we're praying for California. We've had several people make the trip across coast to come volunteer here with us with Valley Strong Disaster Relief. I'll be the very first to admit that before September 27th, I would see a natural disaster and I would think, oh, that sucks. Then I would go on about my life. That's because I'd never been affected by it.
Yeah.
My mindset has completely changed since Hurricane Helene, and I'll spend the rest of my life being involved in some sort of storm relief and trying to pay back the hearts of the volunteers and to help the victims. This morning I saw a post made by the leader of the free world. He said that he was announcing that the federal government would cover 100% of the cost of measures to protect the lives and property in Southern California for the next 6 months. He told the governor and officials to spare no expense and do whatever they need to contain the fires and protect families. I hope that happens. I wouldn't wish what happened here on anybody, not even my worst enemy. What about Appalachia? We are 105 days in since one of the most devastating storms known to mankind. We are still supplying our own campers and shelters while paying mortgages on piles of rubble. We are still running our own supply hubs.
Unacceptable.
With phase 1 items to many people that lost everything, including their homes and their jobs. We still have bridges out. Only 4% of the debris has been picked up. You heard that right, 4%. Many businesses are bankrupt with insurance denying their claim. We have a polar vortex slamming western North Carolina while people are going through 10 gallons of propane a night, wondering where they're going to get their next tank. Every single thing that we the people have done for relief efforts so far has been nothing but a mere band-aid to stabilize our communities until proper help arrives.
And by the way, we went down there and did a documentary, Hurricane Helene, Help on the Way. Please watch it. It was bad then. And one of the main points that Grizzly was making is like, yeah, we're getting some attention and some help now, but what happens when it gets cold? Well, by the way, the storm that went through there last week was bad. These people are intense. God. The people of North Carolina, Maui, East Palestine, Ohio, and Palisades area need help. This country has resources, but they're being plundered by pirates who hate you.
So with all that being said, I hope LA does get fixed. In the meantime, we'll be right here fighting for each other. But when you're done there, don't forget about the backbone of America. Don't forget about Appalachia. Our taxes are paid too. Today is...
So, hopefully, with the new administration, we can put a prioritization into North Carolina. 1 week away. Senator Brian Dahl says SoCal is on fire, and Sacramento Democrats just introduced legislation allocating $25 million to protect illegal alien invaders. This is egregious. They should be focusing on wildfire victims and the homeowners insurance crisis plaguing our state. Yes, California intervenes and says you can't raise the rates of your insurance. The insurance companies say you need to clear the underbrush in your areas or else these places are uninsurable. California says, well, then fine, go away. You need us. We're a huge area. You need our customers. Well, we're going to lose money if we stay here, so work with us, or we can't. Well, then leave. This is on California government.
Gavin Newsom's palms don't sweat. His respiration doesn't increase. His body temperature doesn't change. Nothing changes in Gavin Newsom when he lies to your face. And there are not that many people like that, actually. That's a rare quality. Like, to lock down the state, to keep people's kids from getting an education, and to arrest people for surfing, and then go have dinner at the French Laundry. Like, most people couldn't do that. They'd just be like,
You're saying he's a sociopath. He can lie and not care.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but I don't really know the category, and I'm not going to diagnose him, but I'll just say in 50 years of being around a lot of people, I've met very few who can behave that way. Very, very few. It's a very unusual quality, and of course it's probably useful in politics.
Is he electable? Is he electable? Yeah, exactly. Are the American people going to see that the way that you see it, or?
Well, as you know, the system in California does not include elections. I mean, it has nothing to do with what the people think. It's a machine state. It's the most corrupt out of 50. Kamala Harris was like despised by most Californians, and she, was a sitting U.S. senator. Poor Dianne Feinstein, my neighbor in Washington. I don't think she was a horrible person, just for the record, but she was non compos menis, and she could have lived well beyond her death as a U.S. senator. So it's not a democratic state, small d democratic state. It's not run on the basis of what the population wants. It's a fixed game in California. And so it does make me very uncomfortable that someone from that political culture,
California needs to be liberated as much as Canada does. And if you can get the SAVE Act through, you might have a chance.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly.
Here's Adam Carolla talking about what the fire department situation is like in California. Adam Carolla, one of the most famous California residents, because he invented podcasting and he's been on the air for 35 years, railing against California government, inefficiencies, bureaucracies, backward bullshit. Here's what Adam Carolla dealt with, and here's his white privilege.
I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps, and I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it, and I was standing in line, and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line, and I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago, and she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege.
So when you hear that equity is the number one most important thing to your position with water and power, oh my God, run from that person, fire that person immediately. When you prioritizing blocking competent people from doing an exceptional job, all because you need some arbitrary secondary criteria that must be met instead? That'd be like I'm trying to put a company together, but I only want, but it has to be representative of all of the schools in the Big Ten. Why would I eliminate all of the other people on earth from these positions? I couldn't possibly. It's a numbers game. You can't possibly get the best when you limit your options to 5%, 50%, 80%. You eliminate the possibility of operating at your prime capability. Why did it take 7 years? And then someone else, it takes them a couple of days. You need the best people. And when you make it impossible for the best, brightest, most capable and talented people to participate, you know that you're filling those positions with an inferior product. It's not because of any particular group. It's because you've limited your options. All right. We're short on quarterback here at the Cleveland Browns, but we have to, we need to go get the best Hawaiian-born quarterback possible. I'm sorry, what? We need the best Hawaiian-born quarterback. I think we need a quarterback, the best quarterback. Nope. Must be Hawaiian. Why Hawaiian? Because reasons. I don't think that's going to work. All right. Cleveland Browns, we need a quarterback, so we got a draft coming up. We can sign free agents or draft a player. We need to get the best quarterback. There you go. Thank you. The best quarterback with either Irish heritage or Hawaiian heritage. Okay, this doesn't make sense. I want the best person for the job, but you're saying I have to limit my range of focus, my options, my available opportunities to people that came from a place that started with an H? That's not going to work. I can't work under these conditions. Now, don't forget, you could also hire somebody at quarterback who is from Helsinki. It's so backward, and it's the Democrat mind virus that's behind it. It's the Obama doctrine that's behind it. And it has to be rejected and repealed in favor of competency. If there's a way to find equally talented people, here, listen to what's happening in the UK.
The bright and talented people that I know are leaving. Anyone who can is. All the rich people are leaving.
And by the way, Adam Carolla has talked about this. Joe Rogan left California. Ben Shapiro left California. The New American Media, myself, left California. Dave Rubin left California. The bright, talented people are looking around going, we can't fix this. What do you do? It's like you're intentionally destroying the place. I can't do this anymore. And that's what's happening in the UK as well. And that's why the uprising, the revolt against Starmer is real.
This country has lost more millionaires than any other country except China. Now, if you compare the populations, that tells you
3%.
Right. So we're losing the people who have created the jobs, who are creating the jobs, and who are going to create the jobs. And one of the reasons is they look at the environment that we're operating in. We've talked about high energy prices, but this government has decided that the people who it needs to tax are the businesses, basically, particularly the smaller side businesses, which is where so much creativity really happens. And then there's all sorts of other things about infrastructure, housing, demographics that are going on that I don't, we talk about net immigration figures, and what no one really talks about is the fact that what we're actually doing is we're chasing out all the people who create wealth and have wealth, who pay the taxes, and we're replacing them with people coming in towards the bottom of the jobs market at best, if they're actually working at all. And so your net immigration figure of 900,000, that includes you having lost some of your best people and replaced them with people who are not contributing.
That's
they say is very simple. Well, look, I want my kids to go to a school where they're not taught that they're trans. I want to pay reasonable taxes, which in some places is like 0%. I want clean, safe streets, which you do not have.
The recent data reveals a 56% increase in tube crime, with thefts up by 83% and robberies doubling in 23-24.
The Labour government's talking about, they're going to reduce crime. Street crime is up very significantly. And one of the reasons it's up is that it's not really being dealt with by the police. I mean, I had my car broken into a few years ago, window smashed. There was a CCTV camera right above it. I called the police. You can't call. I had to email the police because they don't answer the phone unless it's like, someone's been misgendered or something, and they emailed me back saying, we've investigated. We can't find anything right under a CCTV camera. Here's your crime reference number. There was a viral video that you probably would have been seen of a guy who deliberately left a bike on the street with a geolocator
directly outside of Scotland Yard.
Yeah, he got nicked. They tracked it down to the house where it was being stored. They gave the police the information. The police said, we've looked into it. Here's your crime reference number. We can't do anything.
And then once the video caught sufficient fire, they got an email back from the police saying, we've reopened your case.
Yes,
great news.
Exactly.
These crimes.
This is so indicative of my experience in Los Angeles. We had one unit in the neighborhood that was causing 95% of the problems, and everybody knew it. And they would even arrest the junkie that was going around everybody's places, breaking into laundry rooms, breaking into washer and dryer machines to steal the quarters, breaking in so that they could steal the electricity, run extension cords out of there, breaking in so they could steal stuff out of people's cars, breaking in so they could steal packages off of your front porch, breaking into homes. Now we're into self-defense, like serious self-defense territory. They found the guy attacked the police, and we went, oh, thank God he's gone. Oh, thank God they finally got him. They dumped him back on the streets that night. You got to put your hands up and go, I cannot live as mayor of Crazyville anymore. And that's what deep blue, deep state Democrat, Soros, DA, Obama doctrine crap will get you.
In the UK, why is this sort of social fabric disintegrating like that?
I think it's partly because the economy isn't growing, and so there's not a lot of money to be put into policing. And when you think that net zero is the way to prosperity, i.e. driving up energy prices because you want to feel green or whatever, you want to reduce Britain's contribution to global climate change from 2% to 1%. That's the great ambition. Well, then you're not going to have money. And when you don't have money, you can't pay police officers. And when you don't have police officers, people engage in crime. All the bright.
So, look, you get to pick your world. You can't have both. You can't have effective, competent, deep blue policies. You can't. It's anathema. It's a oxymoron. But here you go, because the wildfires. How do you work politics?
Anyone else think it's a little strange that Gavin Newsom is running an anti-disinformation campaign from his political account? Because just the other day, he launched an effort to try to stamp out misinformation. But wouldn't you think that if the governor's office is worried about misinformation and making it difficult for them to get resources to the right place, that they would use a state agency to do that? Because what's really weird is when you click that CaliforniaFireFacts.com, it doesn't take you to a government website. No. It takes you to Governor Newsom's political page.
Oh, so not just Act Blue, it's also Newsom. Wow.
The one where he's starting to build momentum for a presidential run. Yeah, that's not a state-run website. That's a campaign website. And what's really weird is he's also running a fundraising campaign out of his political page to help raise money for the fires through Campaign for Democracy. Oh, but look, all the way up here, secured by Act Blue.
There we are.
So Gavin Newsom is running a fundraising campaign out of Act Blue from his political page.
What a dirtbag. This has got to be highly illegal.
Oh, sure enough, because when you click the link there, it takes you to an Act Blue donation site. So the governor of California is really...
And remember, this is exactly what happened with BLM. money laundering.
Worried about misinformation. So instead of fighting it through the official channels in the state of California, he's using his political page. And he's raising money to fight the wildfire through his political page, through Act Blue. Oh, it's starting to make...
You don't hate these people enough. Let me see if this is the same Gates clip or if it's...
The lobbyists do, like a lobbyist would wake up and then go to a breakfast where they would hand...
No, this is the clip that we shared earlier. That was yesterday. One was yesterday, one was today.
The worst natural disaster in American history. The fire risks are well known. So those running the state should have been prepared.
Yes.
But they weren't. They prioritized ideology and virtue signaling about why tiny fish and diversity quotas were more important than saving homes and saving lives. Here's what's gone wrong. Fire hydrants had no water in them. Major reservoir was left empty and unable to be used. No new dams were built despite funding approval 10 years ago. The city's fire budget was cut by $17 million last year, and firefighting equipment was sent offshore. Well, LA Mayor Karen Bass knew there was a high fire risk, but shrugged her shoulders and went on a free trip to Ghana. The city's fire budget was cut by $17 million US last year. Only 5% of her department's budget was spent on fire prevention, 5%. And Crowley has called diversity, inclusion and equity a top priority. Gavin Newsom, he's been so distracted by his obsession with Trump that he dropped the ball on protecting his own people.
That is well said. Like I said earlier, Gavin is out there. Oh, we got to form coalitions. We got to block Trump's agenda, blah, 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 blah. It's like, bro, you're the governor of a state. Focus on your state. Nope. This is what happens when you take your eye off the ball. This is when you don't pay attention for 6 years when Trump is telling you to your face, you need to do deforestation. You need to do the deforestation of dead drop. All of the debris, all the tinder just sitting there.
In recent months, he's spoken about Trump-proofing California. What about fireproofing California? To think Newsom wanted to be president. Surely he's finished after this. The worst natural disaster.
Yeah, he's got to be finished after this. You got to think so.
You were just lying to us about...
By the way, you were just lying to us, he says to Zuckerberg.
This, that, and the other thing. And now I'm supposed to believe you're one of the good guys. You're one of the straight shooters now.
Yeah.
You were just lying to us about this, that, and the other thing. And now I'm supposed to believe you're one of the good guys. You're one of the straight shooters now.
Yeah.
You were just...
So, do we believe Zuckerberg or do we not? I don't. What is this? Excuse me. His expression is too cheerful and his hand movements clearly indicate that he's excited, hiding something and not being truthful. I've seen body language before. Mark Rutte of NATO, the NATO boss, does the same. And they're kind of comparing this to the smart
but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.0. And we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan?
For
Tell
this
us about this
region,
Marshall
we're just
Plan.
starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fires. So we're already talking to city leaders.
What is he laughing about?
We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders and nonprofits. We're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy for recovery, how we can organize the region, how we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly, but also federal assistance for the recovery efforts, and how we can galvanize the community with folks that love this community to really develop a mindset so that at scale we're dealing with the scope of this tragedy and responding to it at scale with efficiency like the executive order I talked about, time value of delivering projects, addressing building codes, addressing permitting issues, and moving forward to rebuilding and being more resilient. But all
My God, that was such a pile of word salad a la Kamala Harris. Yeah, here's Gavin Newsom with Adam Carolla before. You want to know who Gavin? You want to know who Gavin Newsom is?
Don't have the kids. Half of African Americans in the state of California, roughly half of Latino families, have no access to a checking account or an ATM. Things we take for granted. They don't have a checking account.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to sock those things away.
Why do we have them?
A lot of different reasons, but roughly half those families don't. And where do they
why
end
do
up?
Armenians have them?
But where they end up is in check cashing places.
But I want to know why those
lenders
groups. Why those two groups don't have access?
Well, a lot of. Just happens to be that we can
so
talk
they're
about.
Flawed?
This. No, they're hardly flawed, but they're struggling.
Genetically
Folks are making
flawed.
their word. Hardly, not absolutely.
But okay,
not.
so but
absolutely
do Asians have this problem?
I mean, a lot of communities have. A lot of whites have these problems.
Oh,
but
so that's not just black and Hispanic.
No, but
why did you bring up black and Hispanic?
Because the magnitude is ominous.
But why so many of them?
It just happens to be the
magnitude.
That's
the way God planned it.
Not at all.
Well, what happened to them?
There are a lot of issues, and that the communities are struggling. A lot
why
of new
are they
immigrants.
struggling?
A lot of different reasons. Lack of opportunity.
Have been here. Blacks have been here longer than we've been here.
Well, we can surmise.
What about Asians? They were put in internment camps.
Yeah, in fact it all initiated out of San Francisco. And the Chinese Exclusion Act came out.
So
of progressive San Francisco.
Are they the check cashing
a lot
places?
of Asians certainly do.
Oh, so why don't you conclude them?
The only reason why is the magnitude. Of
there's
the problem.
So many more.
The magnitude in percentage.
But there's no way to figure out how that happened.
Africa. We could talk about it. You know what I'm dealing with? I don't want to have a sociological, but think about it.
You confront people on the bullshit talking points, and it instantly becomes obvious.
Christopher Wray.
By the way, we're a week away from President Trump, except being sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. Here's just a reminder.
Oversaw the largest case in FBI history, the attack on the Capitol in 2021. President-elect Trump has vowed to pardon many of the 1,500 people who were charged.
I do think it's important to step back and remember that we're talking about hundreds of people who are convicted, most of them pled guilty, of serious federal crimes.
Oh, they pled guilty? Why did they plead guilty? You were threatening them with what? No. They pled guilty. Huh. I can't wait for the investigations into this piece of work.
Heck, I think 170 or so of them pled guilty.
Oh, you pled guilty when you guys tried to make a political point out of this and you went after them with everything that you had for tons of nonviolent people after the gates were unlocked. After Ray Epps moved barricades aside, big magnetic doors were opened. People walked through and took selfies, staying with inside the velvet rope. And you force them to plead guilty. Now you're going to kind of use that back at them. You're going to, well, they pled guilty. Well, what were you charging them with? You were using every mechanism at your disposal to demonize these mainly peaceful people. It's the peaceful people that I'm mainly talking about here. Oh, this piece of work, Ray.
To assaulting law enforcement.
Now that's a different group of people.
Dozens of them with dangerous or death.
Dozens of them. Okay, so there's dozens of people versus how many have been thrown into a gulag where they still haven't had a chance to go to trial? Cruel and unusual punishment? No access to a fair and speedy trial? Violation of all their civil liberties?
Deadly weapons. And there's a whole...
Wait, what deadly weapons? The only shot fired was when someone from the inside of the Capitol shot a woman in the neck and killed her. And I hope that criminal charge is coming in a week as well.
Bunch that were convicted of seditious conspiracy. We had...
Seditious conspiracy. Are you kidding me?
A case in Tennessee just a couple months ago where a jury convicted a January 6th defendant who had actually doubled down on his crimes by putting together a kill list to murder FBI agents. Now, where I come from, violence against law enforcement, threats against law enforcement is serious business and totally unacceptable.
Oh, yeah? So what about when you set up law enforcement, huh? When you decline the National Guard that Trump requested so that Bowser and Pelosi could get this event exactly how they wanted, so that they could start using the insurrection word, so that they could ram through the rubber stamping of the 2020 results.
In 2019, I think
This is Mel Gibson talking with Joe Rogan.
Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just on fire.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed.
Newsom cut funding for wildlife and forest resilience by more than $1 million just months before these wildfires. Mayor Karen Bass initially tried to cut from the LA Fire Department's budget $23 million in 2024, but settled for $17.6 million in cuts. And she ordered an additional $49 million in cuts to the fire department's budget a week before the fires started.
Work ahead to rebuild our beautiful Pacific Palisades and all areas
This is from James Woods.
Destroyed by Gavin Newsom's hellacious fires will be monumental. We can't waste time and energy easing this creep out of office. If this piece of shit had 1 ounce of decency,
it's funnier when you spell it.
He would resign.
And he keeps passing the buck. I mean, I have seen some journalists really press him and say, you've got to give us a better answer than that. Continues to do is pass the buck. And that's LA's problem. We're going to have to talk to LA about that. Cut that $100 million. He does have to look in the mirror and figure out where he is to blame, because does not all fall on Karen Bass.
In 2000.
He's going to try, though. He's a real piece of work. Is this the same clip?
And you and I both know.
Oh, no, this is a new one. What is this show? This is NBC News being played on Real America's Voice, American Sunrise?
If this was a Republican governor or Republican mayor, the media would be losing.
Okay, yeah, this is a Real America's Voice. Yeah, if this was a Republican mayor, the lying legacy media would be all over that.
Their minds right now, but they're not. They're making excuses. I can go over the list: empty fire hydrants, reduced budget, allocated resources to, I don't know, Ukraine. Those would have came in handy.
Ukraine? Is that confirmed that Ukraine took California resources? I've seen that. I cannot believe that's true.
Right now, fighting this. And I think the fact that Mexico is sending firefighters to California to help us is embarrassing. That you've got the 5th largest economy in the world and they can't handle the resources there. It's an embarrassment on the state. Yeah. It's an embarrassment on this country. And let me tell you something. Somebody better run for governor of California. I have one name that I'd like to do it. And a lot of people at home right now may go, oh, no, not him. But one of the biggest fundraisers in GOP history, Kevin McCarthy, California. Someone needs to take over that state and get better leadership. Wow,
okay, that would be interesting.
That's interesting. And you?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on Kevin McCarthy, but I take the point. Got to meet the sound here, but I mean, look at this, people. Look at it. This old man out there just trying to save what he's got. Going door to door, trying to make sure everyone's okay, and people are clearly not okay. Look at this. It's just driving through hell. How do you breathe that? How do you see through that? Do you burn? Like what? These pictures coming out of California, I have a lot of emotions. I'm glad that I left. Stuff like this, it reminds me, like, you did the right thing. This dude's saying, I'm over it. I want to go home. How do I get home? Can I get home? Yeah, this is just hell. I'm so sad. So sad. Got to really rethink fires now. Yeah, LA runs out of water. You're on the Pacific Ocean. Put a drinking straw into the ocean and drink it. Take a look at this. massive convoy of Tesla Cybertrucks are rolling down the Coast Highway as Elon meets with Los Angeles firefighters. From speaking with these first responders, it's clear that morale is much higher now that they're being reconnected with Starlink. Musk is using these Cybertrucks to help augment the communication in Los Angeles and the fire. Which are using them to deliver water and food in a great gesture. And the left will still find some way to attack them. California as well, because San Francisco is so poorly managed. Remember, San Francisco being so poorly managed led to all three of their major sports teams leaving.
Gavin Newsom, one of the worst governors in the world, and I used to get along, but I don't get along with him now because he's just too, it's just a whole con job. But Gavin Newsom, the other day, signed a bill that you are not allowed to ask a person, even ask them whether or not they have a voter ID.
Now, who in their right mind could actually do something like that unless they're an enemy?
What could be a charitable reason why anybody
because they
would
want
want
to cheat.
that? But that would be the only thing that makes sense.
But that's taken it to the next level.
Right.
Now, you have ID. The Democrat National Convention, when they had it the last time, I saw, they had a sign, like a billboard, on the name of the person, where they live, how they live, who the hell their boyfriends are. Every single, and a big picture. That's for they have an ID, a big ID. It was hanging like you were a prisoner. They had these massive cards, everything. And yet when it comes to the vote, in theory, the most important thing we do, okay? When you go to a grocery store, you give ID. But for a vote, it's supposed to be a sacred thing, and it should be a sacred thing. No voter ID because they want to cheat.
Well, it doesn't make sense in any other way. I've tried to look at
There's no other way. Gavin?
And that's what Gavin Newsom is all about. He does stuff like that. Oh, here's Altadena. I'll just mute it. I don't know if it's a song I can use or not, but it's a hellscape. This is just torch to the ground. And could you imagine the numbers of people that are just rifling through the charred remains trying to dig out valuables? Oh my God. Ugh. Because if your place is burned, maybe there's pockets that didn't go up. Maybe basement area. Who knows? But man, look at all this stuff you got to secure. How do you even secure all of this stuff? I mean, how many of these places are total losses? Unfortunately, a lot. Now, this looks like maybe the same clip I played. Let's
For him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist.
Open hand, not a closed fist. We don't believe you.
The mayor was promptly blasted across the country.
Mayor Karen Bass.
For appearing to smile, grin and smirk her way through the speech.
Angelinos, we're still going through it. And to any of you and all of you that have experienced a loss, the grief, the anger, the just utter shock, I've seen the devastation. It is unbelievable the amount of loss that people have experienced.
It seems like the entire city is turning against the mayor, with this radio station blasting her incompetence and calling for her resignation.
Call for the immediate recall of Mayor Karen Bass due to her gross mismanagement and failure to effectively...
That's John and Ken on KFI. We interviewed them in 2016 at the RNC in Cleveland. I used to listen to them all the time.
...respond to the devastating 2020 fires. In the wake of these catastrophic fires, our city has been left in crisis. Water supplies have been severely strained. Billions of taxpayer dollars have been misallocated or left unaccounted for, and countless lives have been lost. Families have been displaced, homes destroyed, livelihoods shattered, yet Mayor Bass has been absent from the front lines, choosing to travel abroad while her constituents suffer. Despite the tireless efforts of our first responders, the city has been woefully unprepared to ensure the safety and well-being of its residents. Basic resources such as water and emergency services have been inadequate, and leadership has been nowhere to be found when it was needed most. We demand the immediate resignation of Mayor Karen Bass due to her failure to lead during this unprecedented crisis.
The mayor was promptly...
I agree. Well said. I think that was John and Ken. All right, I did share this one. This is a new one. Getting ready to wrap up here. If you have any final comments or questions, type them below. Please hit like or subscribe. Follow the New American Media and the Agree to Disagree show in all of the places. But apparently this is a man who was arrested by police with a blowtorch near the Kenneth Fire in West Hills, California, identified as Juan Manuel Sierra Leyva, and is an illegal alien. So here's the guy. You know, I'm willing to consider what's going on here. No idea. So what is this, a citizen arrest? I would be curious to follow this. Yep, get on your butt. Sit down, sir. Here's the police rolling up. And they're like, that guy was over there with a fire torch, with a blow torch, and he's an illegal alien that snuck in here, broke into this country, doesn't deserve to be here, and he's trying to damage our country. Are these the sleeper cells that have been activated in 2025? Well, you can listen to Mel Gibson talking about remdesivir and Rogan talking about the fact that they're banning monoclonal antibodies that showed great success rates, and they were banning ivermectin that showed great promise. I encourage you to watch that, and I do still consider the fact that my brother perished after they forced remdesivir on him. They withheld monoclonal antibodies from his doctors to the point where they couldn't even figure out where they were allowed to be distributed. I blame Biden and Fauci for ivermectin demonization of it so that it wasn't really an option. And when it was prescribed, but it's such a low dose that it wasn't an effective dose that could have potentially helped him. I put his death directly on your hands. Biden, Fauci, the entire manipulation system that was used during COVID. Yeah, fuck it. I'll just play it.
The thing was falling apart.
I got COVID from my gardener, and he had it first, and then I got it. And I was like, did I grab the hose or what? You know, what was? I don't know. But it was. I knew the guy for 20 years, and we both went to the same hospital, and he died, and I didn't.
Jesus.
I think we both got remdesivir, which is not good.
Not good.
Not good.
Causes kidney failure.
And they mandated that everybody everywhere do the same exact thing. And they did not let doctors determine what is helpful and what is not. They said, here's our one-size-fits-all approach. Do it. Do it or else. Never again. There has to be justice for everybody that pushed that one-size-fits-all. Never again. Find me any peer-reviewed study saying anything good about remdesivir. Find me peer-reviewed studies that can say ivermectin is a danger. Last I checked, it was an award-winning super drug.
I know. I couldn't walk for 3 months after I had that stuff.
Really?
Because it kills you. I found out afterwards it kills you, and that's why I wonder about Fauci, you know.
Oh, you should wonder about that guy.
Yeah.
When meanwhile, they were trying to stop people from getting monoclonal antibodies.
Yeah.
Well, they've restricted monoclonal antibodies, which is fucking insane because they wanted to promote that vaccine because they wanted to profit off of it, which brings us back again to evil.
And they couldn't get emergency use authorization if there were other functional therapeutics. So if monoclonal was acceptable, then they feared that they were going to lose the protections of their jab. They feared if ivermectin was determined to be successful in some cases, then that would be a therapeutic, and then they couldn't have emergency use authorization.
Evil's real. It's real. Putting money over human lives is evil.
I agree.
It's a real thing, and there's a temptation to do it too, which is even more crazy.
Yeah. I don't believe that there is anything that can afflict mankind that hasn't got a natural cure for it. I think that there has to be. It just makes sense to me. Now, I couldn't prove that, but I just believe that.
Yeah.
That there's got to be something that cures things. And I'll tell you a good story.
Okay.
So, and he continues on here and says that there's fenbendazole and the other one that have cured a couple of his friends. That's his claim.
In 2019, I think.
I did play this one already, and I think we're on to our last story. Is this our last story? That's our last story, folks. This is the TNAM morning show. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go about my day now. This is pretty cool. What's up, Charla Blackman? Saying nope. And that's a big middle finger to Gavin Newsom. I agree. Thanks for finding us, Char. Please hit like and subscribe to the New American Media and all of the endeavors that we do. Please follow us. Well, we're on Patreon. If you like what we're doing, we're looking for more monthly donors. It all adds up. The New American Media. We're on Venmo at, what is it? What's the, here, let me pull these up, and then we're going to, it should be right. Oh, there we go. Okay, patreon.com/the New American Media. We're on Venmo at Brian Engelman. That's me, at BrianEngelman. On PayPal at Fuzz Installment, FUZZINSTALLMENT. On PayPal at Fuzz Installment. I need to update this because there's a Cash App now. For anybody that wants to take any umbrage with anything we had to say about COVID or the elections, go to CISA.gov/rumor control regarding elections, the WHO website, WHO.int, and CDC.gov for all medical issues, and CDC.gov/vaccine, specifically regarding medical and political claims. I say all of these things under duress of censorship. Follow our private group on Facebook at TNAM's The Agree to Disagree Show. We're on YouTube, The New American Media. Find us on Rumble. Download the Agree to Disagree Show podcast on Spotify. The New American Media on X. We're at American_media_. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to tap out for now, but we'll be back. Appreciate you. Love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace.